Fire, 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 fire. All right, let's do it. This is the biggest crash hour I've ever seen. Is this about Borderlands? This looks like Borderlands. I could recognize this stylized ass looking face anywhere. All right, let's do it. Let's check it out. What's going on?
Just code your own engine.
There we go.
That's the solution. We have CEOs that are stepping forward to tell their paying customers that performance issues largely are just a figment of their imagination, and that according to their independent and likely...
Yeah, I mean, like, Bethesda did this with Fallout 4 and, what was it, Starfield? Yeah, they did this all the time. What are we talking about? They literally have ads. Oh, not ads, sorry, add-ons that just fix the game for them. Yeah, this is
research
not a new
that
concept.
humans can't even detect input lag. You can't even see these frame rate issues. You know what?
Yeah,
let's take it a step further. Let's create a class divide by telling the players that we make premium games for premium gamers. Against the backlash of Borderlands 4's garbage performance, regardless of whatever hardware you're playing on, Gearbox CEO Randy Pitchford has come forward on social media and instead of just saying, we hear you, we're working on it, proceeds to have the most epic and catastrophic crash out that I think I've ever seen in the history of video games.
I've not
this guy
seen it
goes
yet.
on for like 20 responses just talking to himself. Performance in AAA games has been one of the biggest issues that most players are facing today. And the price for these games continues to increase, but so does the hardware demands. And it's because these games are not being made with the customer in mind. They're not setting realistic expectations, and they don't value performance and quality the same way that we do.
They made, what's his name? What's that TV show host guy that's got the orange hair? They made that guy play it live on stream and it crashed in front of everybody. And then they tried to put it on them. Yeah, Conan O'Brien. Yeah, they were like, how did you do that? And he's like, I don't know.
It's just not happening that way.
Yeah.
Today, I want to talk about the public crash out of Borderlands 4. I want to talk about the critical difference in how we value performance while the industry seems to just not value it at all, and why they expect for us to continue to pay for their mistakes.
Because
Sorry,
we still do.
my wallet's not feeling
like the
all that
normies
empathetic.
are.
Big thanks to Starford Systems for supporting the channel and sponsoring today's video. They build some of the most powerful custom PCs out there, hand-assembled, stress-tested, and built to last. Whether you want a pre-built rig ready to go or a full custom build, check out Starford Systems and use my link in the description below. Now, as many of you guys might know, I was hyped for Borderlands 4. I love RPGs, I love first-person shooters, I grew up on Diablo, and Borderlands has always been the perfect blend of both. I have put thousands of hours into the series from the very first game. Hell, I even enjoyed Borderlands 3 as long as I played it on mute and pretended like Ava never existed. So when I heard that Borderlands 4 was going to be even bigger, open world, more build diversity, more guns, more bosses, and a more grounded narrative, I could not wait to dive in. And now that it's here, I love it. Don't get me wrong, the game definitely has its shortcomings. The loot feels a lot more toned down earlier on in the game. Dropping a massive boss only to get like 5 basic rarity items is limp and unsatisfying. But beyond that, the game nails so much. The movement options, the sheer variation in baseline builds, the characters, the world building, the tone, even the humor, it all lands way better than the last game.
Okay,
the new weapon
that's
types
good.
and license.
People complain about the last Borderlands a lot because of the millennial humor writing and how unbearable it was listening to the characters. That's a bonus, right, Chad? W? Is that a W? I don't know. I mean, it probably balances out with the poor performance issues. The writers are awful. 3 disappointed me. Okay, that's good.
Its part systems are great touches too. Playing solo or with friends, Borderlands 4 is exactly what I hoped this series would evolve into.
That's good.
But what I never expected is that it would be a performance dumpster fire. I'm playing Borderlands 4 on an RTX 4090 with a Ryzen 7 9800.
No. You have to have the 5090, dude. Come on. Get the program. Come on. You have to have the top of the performance line in order to play our game. If you're poor, you can kick rocks. Obviously.
X3D. That is not mid-range hardware. It's absolutely not top of the line either, but it's strong enough that I almost never run into any performance issues that I can't solve by just brute forcing it. Yet here I am, even on high settings, I'm stuck relying on DLSS performance, upscaling, and frame gen just to be able to hit something close to stable. And even then, the game is constantly bugging out with lighting that's flickering and tunnels, cave entrances that are glowing, and artifacting ground objects that are popping in and out like it's 2008.
Are they still using the old engine? You know, I can make a great example out of this. World of Warcraft has a massive slew of problems because the engine is quite literally 20 years old, and there's constant performance issues that they can't even pinpoint because the game is so old and relatively spaghetti coded compared to other games. At least it's pretty spaghetti coded, and it's like you need to like have a reset at this point. You can't keep going with this. It's UE5. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's a lot of bloat, yeah.
Dude, this is 2025. This game likely cost Gearbox over $300 million to make, with marketing included. It's been in development for 7 years. It costs $70 at a minimum, and the deluxe edition is pushing $130. And while the game is definitely big,
it's 130 American dollars. If you live in like Australia or Canada, it's like probably like closer to $200. Just stop being poor, man.
it's cel-shaded. It's not pushing hyper-realistic fidelity. Performance should be the last thing that's dragging this game down. For the kind of money that we spent and the kind of money that they spent, optimization is not a luxury. It is the baseline expectation. Then again, I guess we probably should have seen this coming, because just before the game released, there was a promotional fundraiser for Borderlands 4, and the game crashed live while Conan O'Brien...
I feel bad for him. Yeah, maybe he actually does like the game and it's not like a promo thing. Like, there's boomers out there that like video games. I'll give him that. I would feel bad, genuinely. I don't know. I don't care about his politics or anything like that. I've seen some clips of him, but like, god damn, dude. It's so sad.
And was playing it. And suddenly, now that embargo not lifting until the game launched makes perfect sense.
Fantastic.
I've never seen this crash.
I crashed the game. Sorry, Borderlands 4.
I've never seen this crash the game.
Sorry, Borderlands 4.
I've never seen this crash.
My face win. My face win.
The game.
Since launch, the conversation around Borderlands 4 has been dominated by its abysmal performance across both PC and console, although PC players have definitely been the loudest, but that's simply just because it's easier to track and measure for these guys. Articles, videos, social media threads, and now Steam are all echoing the exact same complaint. The game runs like trash. And normally, when this happens, you would expect the developer to step up and do the usual PR lines. We hear you, we see the issues, and we're working on those fixes, but this is Gearbox that we're talking about. This is Randy Pitchford, the same CEO, when fans were expressing their concerns over whether or not the game would cost $80, told them, well, real fans will buy Borderlands 4.
They're so out of touch. They're so out of touch. This reminds me basically of all the people that have been brainwashed by Blizzard to basically suck their dick about buying the game early for early access. And you're just like, you do I think the thing that pains me the most about specifically early access is that with a game like an MMO, or like Borderlands is also kind of an RPG, so I would say the most exciting days of a game launch is the early days. If the whole player base can't enjoy it at the same time, I think that's a scam. I think that's not what the true spirit of an MMO or an RPG is. That's how they basically disguise the fact that they want you to pay $90 for early access, just like Borderlands wants you to pay $80, and they reduced it to $70 because people were really pissed about it. Which is good, but I don't think it should even be $70. I think $60 is more of a fair price at this rate, even if you take into account frickin' inflation.
Following the backlash, Randy Pitchford took to Twitter to play customer support after boasting that Borderlands 4 could climb over 120 FPS on 3 to 4-year-old hardware. A player pushed back saying, "What hardware? What are the specs? It's great that you're offering help, but wouldn't it have been better to build it for the most common hardware in the first place?" Randy responds with, "The minimum and recommended specs are published. The most common hardware is a 4-year-old cell phone."
I'm calling cap on that.
Borderlands 4 is a premium game made for premium gamers. Just as it can't run on a PlayStation 4, it cannot be expected to run on outdated PC hardware.
Then how did it run on a 4-year-old cell phone? The most common hardware is a 4-year-old cell phone. Is he really extrapolating like mobile gaming to PC gaming? That's what WoW did in the beginning. That's a big reason it sold so well. But even back then, PCs weren't as commonplace as they are now. Like, to be completely fair with you, I think that playing World of Warcraft back in 2004 when it launched was still a big deal. You had to have investment for that shit. Most people didn't even have, like, a PC. My parents had a laptop. Like, what the fuck?
Where? Unlike on PlayStation and Xbox, we can't stop PC players with suboptimal hardware from trying to play the game. Some try and get mad, some have real issues we need to fix, and some need to learn how their PCs work at a high end in 2025 and use tools available to find the right balance between frame rate, resolution, and graphic features. This is not a game meant to run on 10-year-old PCs. It uses the full capabilities of modern buses, CPUs, and GPUs. If you're trying to drive a monster truck with a leaf blower's motor, you're going to be disappointed. If you discover your system can't run the game well, whether by accident, wishful thinking, or just not wanting to mess with the settings, please use the refund feature on Steam rather than having a subpar experience. This is one of the most ignorant, insulting, tone-deaf responses I've ever seen from a CEO. Pitchford isn't just
refund the game and stop being poor, idiot. What about... Can I just say how privileged Americans are? I feel really bad. Like, I got into, like, the Brazilian community back when I played Tree of Savior for a little bit, back way before COVID. I think this was, like, 2017. I played with a lot of Brazilians, and their biggest complaint about getting into gaming is that they literally can't afford it. Like, Latin Americans. And they're the funnest, nicest people. They love video games. They love World of Warcraft, for example. I played Tree of Savior, and they were the kindest and also the most, how do I explain it? The most, not vicious, but like, they love their community. And when they play a game, they will band together and make it as fun as possible because... competitive? Yeah, I guess competitive? Passionate. Die hard? Yeah, they will play the game no matter what. Especially if it's free, which it was back in the day when Tree of Savior first came out. They loved that game, and I thought it was just the funnest thing because they had a massive community. And if you got into a skerfuffle with one of them in PvP, you would have 10 people swarming you, all of them cussing you out in Portuguese, and I thought it was really funny. But, like, what bums me out is that these Americans can't comprehend, like, maybe there's, like, people that don't live in America that can't afford to play your game because they literally can't. It's not their fault. Like, the average job can't afford to supply you unless you save up for months and months and months to buy a PC. And even then, you might not even get it because you can't import it. It's just like, I think that's so unfair, and I think that's so delusional, and it marks out an entire populace of the world, a vast majority, just because you're like, oh, well, you know, you could just, like, not be poor for a minute or something, and it's just like, that's really ignorant in my opinion. Why would they care about anything outside the whole world? I don't know. I can't relate because I play video games with all kinds of people, and I think that's what gaming is about. It's supposed to be beautiful, uniting, international. I think the more international a game is, the more fun it is, in my opinion. But I mean, that's just my experience.
Reflecting criticism here, he is outright sneering at the people who paid for his product. Bro. He's framing Borderlands 4 like it's some kind of elite luxury experience, a premium game made for premium players, while conveniently ignoring the fact that it's a broken mess that can't even run properly on hardware that's far and above the recommended specs. He's not talking to the average player.
Even the fat, rich Americans can't play your game. What does that say about you, brother?
Here, he is talking down to them as if the problem is their ignorance and their 10-year-old PC rather than his studio's inability to ship a functional game. But no, instead of acknowledging that, he would rather reduce legitimate complaints into 3 buckets. People that either get mad, people that have real issues, and then the ones that need to learn how their PC works. Translation, if the game runs poorly, it's your fault or your imagination. Please use the refund feature on Steam. Dude, that is not customer support. That is the CEO of a studio basically telling their paying customers to get lost if they're not willing to bend over backwards to tinker with their settings for a $70 to $130 game that should be working out of the box.
And that's what kills me. Starfield set the standard for that, or at least not set the standard, but it was the most public. When Todd Howard... As much as I love the guy for his attitude, he is such a clown for saying this on national television. He said, verbatim, if you can't run the game, I think you might need to upgrade your game, because that sounds like a skill issue. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but that's essentially what he said. Sorry about that. I was just fucking yapping and then it died. We're good.
Imagine dropping hundreds, even thousands of dollars on modern PC hardware, buying a flagship release, and then being told by the guy in charge that you need to become a part-time technician or just walk away. This is not leadership. This is active content. This is the same old Randy Pitchford routine. Gaslight, deflect.
This is why I hated it also when people are like, oh, well, you can play Fallout New Vegas on Steam, but you have to, like, you have to take so many steps to get it to work properly without it crashing every, I don't know, like couple of hours, or, you know, if you download a mod, it might break very, very likely, and you have to figure it out by going onto old forums and talking to other people, and then those people are like, oh, just get this mod pack, it'll fix everything, and then you download it and it doesn't fix anything. It's like, why can't you just have a functioning fucking New Vegas version for the new version, Windows version or whatever, that just works and is actually compatible with people's mods? Like, it's an amazing game and people miss out on it, and I fucking hate that that's the attitude that we have now.
Insult and then just blame the players. And the fact that he is doing all of this while Borderlands 4 is collapsing under the weight of its own performance issues just makes this all the more pathetic. And of course, if you guys thought it stopped there with the first tweet and you thought that was going to be the low point, you are wrong, because Pitchford did not stop there. He went on a 19-post rant, doubling down on every single excuse and condescension that he could muster.
It's 15 years old. You don't see 15-year-old well-maintained cars break down because they're fucking maintained and they're still cars. It's not an excuse. I hate the fucking logic of, like, saying, oh, well, the game is 15 years old and, like, the OS is updated. It's like, then fucking update it so that it fucking works. It's not that deep. It's not that complicated.
Across the thread that he had made, he insisted that Borderlands 4 was pretty damn optional, claimed that the real issue players were having was that they weren't making the right trade-offs between FPS, resolution, and features, and repeatedly framed 30 FPS on minimum spec and 60 FPS on recommended as perfectly reasonable for 2025. He dismissed any higher expectations as mistakes and blamed players for having the wrong hardware and the wrong mindset.
Your game should work no matter what resolution you put it in. I learned this from some coding people saying, like, if the customer manages to find a way to break your app, it means that the app is the problem, because you have to go through as many steps as possible to make it as unbreakable as possible. Yes, of course, a customer will always find a way to break a product that you make or that you code or whatever, but the fact that you can't even, like, the fact that a customer can do the most basic thing, just launch the game and it doesn't work, that doesn't mean the customer's wrong.
He trotted out that same tired argument that DLSS is the magic fix, even though, and also suggesting that if people don't like frame generation, well, that's just because they saw something scary on the internet. Saying that through his own research that he's been led to believe that humans can't even detect input lag. The through line of all 19 posts is the same. The game is fine, you're the problem. Whether it's telling players that they need to accept reality, that their emotions are clouding their judgment, or that they should just refund the game if they don't want to fiddle with their settings. And just when you thought he finally might log off, he drops one more gem.
Oh, here we go.
Code your own engine and show us how.
They have! That's how indie games have destroyed AAA. And then you cry about it and say that they don't sell it for enough money. Oh my lord.
It's done. We'll be your customer when you pull it off. This is just pure spite for the people that are funding your game.
You're so mad. You're malding.
Imagine spending 7 years and hundreds of millions of dollars on a product that can't even maintain a stable performance. And then you turn around and you start mocking your customers by telling them to build their own engine if they think that they can do better. Even
if you know better, you probably shouldn't say it. Especially when you're trying to sell something to a customer. Like, I understand that Mercedes and Ford, when a customer comes in, if they want to spend $80,000 on a car, they're not going to go out of their way to, like, say, like, oh, well, you know, you know, you have to spend $80,000 on a car. They will try and negotiate with the customer that's in the store to trying to get them a different car, or at least trying to justify the cost of the car because it's worth it, instead of saying, oh, well, if you can make a better Mercedes-Benz or a better Rolls-Royce, then just go ahead and go do it. They don't do that in the store.
Guys, I think
You're
Randy
shooting yourself in the proverbial foot.
must have left his conscience on a USB drive at medieval times, because I have never seen such a mask-off moment or such an unjustified crash out. He's trying to frame this like players are asking for 300 FPS on 10-year-old hardware, when in reality, channels like Hardware Unboxed have already proven that a stable 30 or even 60 FPS doesn't even hold up on the very hardware.
Oh my god. Borderlands 4 visually optimized by NVIDIA, and it sucks. Look, it's the 5060 Ti, 8 gigabytes, dude. Holy, and it's still not that good, huh?
That Gearbox is advertising. Their test had shown that Borderlands 4 was struggling on modern GPUs, with a 7-year-old 2080 Ti delivering worse results than Cyberpunk 2077 at launch. And when they finally dug into the so-called optimization guide published by NVIDIA, it looked like the entire thing was AI generated, riddled with nonsense recommendations, and we have a CEO that is getting mad that everybody noticed. This makes me so embarrassed to be enjoying Borderlands 4. I would say that I regret the purchase, but 2K gave me a code on the terms that
This would happen to me in New World. All of my friends... So I had a friend who pretty much had the same exact setup as I did, but for whatever reason, on New World launch, my version of the game kept fucking crashing, and I was mauling out because everybody was getting ahead of me, and it took me fucking forever to get it to fix, and it turns out they needed to patch the game. I literally couldn't play the game for like 2 days because they had to fucking do an emergency patch for certain systems to figure out what was going on. And I'm just sitting here like, I have a friend that pretty much the same specs as me, but for some reason my one crashes. And also, they also made graphics cards melt too. That was another thing. Yeah, fun fact.
At least made a video for the game, so here's your video. I'm still getting blackballed from this industry, but that's okay. I make videos for you, not for them.
Yep.
I'm so sick of the moral posturing. How many times I have to see these developers say things like, we worked so hard on the game, we love this game. That's great. Sure you did. We want to be able to play the game comfortably. And the fact that you would take offense to that shows that you're just being defensive about not doing your job. You insult your customers and their intelligence. I have never seen somebody fight so hard and try so hard to destroy the reputation of a genuinely solid game that just needed a little bit more time in the oven. You are making permanent statements for temporary problems.
And again, it's one person, basically. There's probably at least 500 people that worked on this game, and it's just one person that can't keep their mouth shut and trying to justify a fucking shitty product being shitty at launch for certain people that just quite literally doesn't work. Oh, the car doesn't start? Oh, well, that's your problem, brother.
All you had to say was, we hear you, we're working on it. That's it. Yeah. That was too hard. Maybe if you didn't spend...
It wouldn't make them, like, less upset, but it would make them more mad.
That $12 million bonus on a magic house and instead spend it on the salary of your optimization team, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But you don't have any excuses. That's the problem that I don't think that they understand. Cyberpunk 2077 runs better. That's a far more detailed game. Kingdom Come Deliverance.
But Cyberpunk was unplayable at launch. That's all I'm saying. Like, now it's playable, but at launch it was unplayable.
Runs insanely well, and that game has hyperphoto realism. It has life schedules for its NPC and AI, and that game could work on just about anything. You have competition that's out in the market right now that proves that this is your fault, not the fault of the players or their hardware. But you can't handle that. You can't come to terms with that. Know who your customer is and meet them where they are. Under no circumstances is it our fault for not keeping up with the most modern hardware. And the entire time that he is complaining about all these players not using the right settings, he's constantly bringing up DLSS, he's constantly bringing up frame gen. These are modern solutions to problems that you created, and it's using hardware that most...
You're also putting band-aids on the solution instead of having the core function. Yeah. It's like telling a cancer patient, like, oh, well, you're probably gonna pass away soon, but we have all these solutions for you to keep you alive. It's like, well, you know, you could actually give me a cure instead. It's like, oh, well, no, that's just too hard. Why would I do that?
Players don't even have
No.
access to. I'm so sick of these companies pretending like FrameGen is some magic bullet for performance. It's not. It's a band-aid that is there to cover up for steep hardware demands it's created by poor optimization. And half the time, it's creating more problems than it's actually fixing. Extra input latency, artifacting, CPU bottlenecking, and diminishing returns the higher your frame rate goes. The irony is that FrameGen is only available on 40 and 50 series GPUs, the exact cards that are going to be running at higher frame rates to begin with. It's a self-defeating solution. The players who actually need the performance boost don't even have access to it, while the people who do have access to it are going to be the ones getting the least benefit from it. What makes this all worse is the industry's blind faith in it. Just a few weeks ago, I had made a video that was pointing out how at least one company finally admitted the obvious, that the pace of hardware and software development has completely outrun players' ability to keep up. Every year, publishers are chasing higher fidelity, more photorealism, more systems that are crammed into these massive games, but wages have not risen with inflation, let alone...
It's not even about wages at this point. I'm gonna be honest. I think we've reached such a cap on photorealism that people are starting to go back to games that don't even look photorealistic anymore. Why do you think those people that were mauling over Silksong's success were mad? Because the game still looks like it's from, like, it's like a Flash game from like 2009 or 2013. And it costs $30. And those AAA game devs are like, fuck, man, we could have had this, and we could have worked on a game that wouldn't have been so much effort, and like, it could have been so successful. Now we're stuck here and people won't buy our game because it literally won't run. It literally won't run on their what is it called? On their top of the line PC hardware. Silksong can run on anything, I'm sure, right? It's $20. Okay, even better. That proves my point even better, because I thought it was $30.
The cost of being able to keep your hardware current. Players simply cannot afford to upgrade at the rate that these companies are demanding us to. Pitchford leaned hard onto DLSS and frame generation in his responses, but the reality is, FrameGen is...
Imagine you're a streamer who games all the time. Like, say, this is the best example. Aspen plays a lot of games that are, like, top of the line, good or bad, like... Having to keep up with these problems and your streaming content relies on the game crashing. I'm pretty sure Stalker, he had to literally not play because it wouldn't launch. It was broken. Even though it's a relatively good game, he still had to, like, basically say, guys, I literally can't stream today because it doesn't work. And I'm like, the guy has an infinite amount of money and he has top of the line hardware, and even he can't play the game. That does not make the game look good inherently.
Only available on 40 to 50 series GPUs. According to Steam's August hardware survey, that's just 22% of users.
22%?
Meaning that 78%
That's
of
way
PC
higher
players
than I thought, I'm
don't
not
even
gonna
have
lie.
access to these so-called solutions that he keeps preaching about. That's what I mean when I say that these companies are not serving their customers where they actually are, and Gearbox isn't alone in doing this. When I saw the heated discourse around performance, I went and checked out to see how it lined up with the game's reception. On Steam, Borderlands 4 was sitting around mostly negative, which is exactly what you would expect given what players were experiencing, but critics, they had the game sitting at an 84 on Metacritic and an 85 on OpenCritic, making it one of the best reviewed games this year and automatically a recommendation. Almost every reviewer did mention performance issues, yet none of those problems really ever seemed to touch the final score. When I pointed out this gap, seeing this disparity between user scores and critic scores, I had summed it up on Twitter saying there is an ocean of difference between how customers value performance.
Yeah, but the user scores are right wing and they're grifters, and everyone who disagrees with me is a grifter, don't you know? Yeah, anyone who criticizes me is a Nazi. I'm exaggerating, obviously I didn't say this, but it just kind of reminds me of the mentality of the people that like can't take criticism online. It's like, you're wrong, you're an incel, or you're a grifter, you're just saying this because if you give them a bad score, then people will give you more views and more money. It's like, that's not how it works, man. It's just the truth.
And how critics seem to nod. This caught the attention of Paul Tossi, a writer from Forbes, who had quoted me saying that
this isn't even related to any culture war. I'm just saying that they literally have a shitty game that doesn't work and they're trying to cope. That's just an objective sad, like, fact.
I think that there's a difference between a player base using a Steam thumbs down to
I'm
express
an
valid
incel. Yes,
discontent
I
and
am.
a critic submitting a permanent score to Metacritic when there could be a patch the next day. Though you mention it in the review, certainly. This started a bit of a back and forth between me and Paul Tossi, where I had replied saying, I totally get where you're coming from, and ultimately that proves my point. Critics do weight performance issues differently than players because of the permanence of your reviews. While I appreciate you and others mentioning performance, there is a major difference in the reception of it. First impressions are oftentimes last impressions for players, and poor optimization leaves players feeling undervalued in a way that critics don't communicate.
Yeah.
Paul pushed back saying, I get why the reaction is different, but I still can't agree that we value it less. We may think about it differently, but I don't think that we care about it less because it doesn't tank our overall score. I also think that there are levels between this doesn't work and frames drop. I clarified my point saying, I'm not...
Frames dropping in an FPS, let alone any game, is so unfun. I hate it because, first of all, it breaks your immersion. It makes you realize you're playing the game, and it can also fucking just make you lose. You drop you blink, and sometimes an enemy on like a certain difficulty mode, it's over. Like, you can just die. What if you're in a boss fight and then you frame drop and then you just get one shot? It's like, oh, cool, awesome. That wasn't even in my control. How is that not a negative? Excuse me? That's not even bad? Okay, cope.
Saying that you don't care or that it doesn't tie into your review score. However, the perception of value is different between those that are spending money on an experience and the purpose of that experience for them. It's the difference between outrage and inconvenience. He replied, I suppose, but you could extrapolate that to be true for any aspect of a game, i.e. we care less a game is bad because we got a free code, which isn't true. I push back again saying, we do though. I'm including myself here so it doesn't feel like I'm trying to dog on you. It feels comparatively worse paying for a bad game than playing it for free. Again, inconvenience versus outrage. One wasted my time, the other wasted my time and money. He countered with, yeah, I mean, I pay for games, I don't pay for others, but it being free never changes my opinion. You just know it's a paid product and go from there. I get how some people may not believe that, but it is what it is. I wrapped it up with, I think this is a great conversation to explore, regardless of differing perspectives and opinions. I know you're on FPS sometimes. Good topic to bring up with Ralph at some point. I know that he pays for his trips and previews out of pocket out of fear of changing his or his audience's perspective.
That's based.
I think this whole conversation illustrates why players in the industry...
This is why people don't really trust game journals.
Large are just living in two different realities right now. Paul is not wrong that critics think about it differently, but that's exactly the issue. Critics can afford to think about it differently. For players, performance is not some abstract scoring metric. It's just the difference between a game being playable or not, between a purchase feeling like it's justified or a scam. When these critics are framing these performance issues as minor inconveniences, it comes across as dismissive. Players do not experience bugs and stutters like there's some footnote. We're experiencing those things like they're the actual game. And when these games are costing $70 to $130, that frustration is now hardening into outrage.
God, if you told me games costed like the premium editions cost $120, I remember premium editions were like $80. And that was like an insane amount for me as a kid. I was like, holy Toledo. I remember when my brother, years after the launch of Diablo 2, he got Diablo 2 Lord of Destruction. He got it from like eBay or something. He got the collector's edition battle chest, and he got it for cheap. So it was like $100, $120 when it usually costs like $200. And that was like a big deal to us. I was so happy for him. Obviously he was older and he had a job, but like for me, I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. Now it's kind of like, it's just like extra digital codes and all that.
What I don't think these guys understand is that critics are not living with that same financial weight. Not in the same way. Most of these guys are getting their copies for free, and no matter how much they insist that that's not affecting their judgment, it changes the psychology of value. Paying for a broken game hits harder. It feels like betrayal. That's why review scores barely move when performance is bad, and that's why user scores are the ones that are tanking. It's not that we players value it more, it's that we experience the cost of failure more directly. A critic can wait for patches, they can keep their score intact, and they can just move on to the next code in their inbox, but a player, well, we're stuck looking at a broken purchase and wondering why the press...
Yeah, and then you also have to keep in mind that this pissed me off. Back when Bless Online launched, this was like in 2017 or 16, I even remember Asmund and McConnell playing it and fucking McConnell wheezing his fucking ass off. The game was literally unplayable, and Steam usually doesn't do this, but you could get a refund on Bless Online even if you had 6 hours on it, because when I played it, I had to sit in a queue for like 4 or 5 hours, and I was like, fuck, like, I bought this game, I can't remember how much it was, but I bought it, and I was pretty broke. Like, I thought it was gonna be like a cool game to play for at least like a couple of months or a year, and then it turns out it's literally unplayable when you fucking launch the game. So they finally decided to give you a refund and said, okay, well, this was a fucking disaster. Steam had to intervene and let you refund it, even though you're past the 2-hour mark. I have some games where I regret buying it. I played it for 2 hours and I was like, fuck, I wish it wasn't 2 hours because it fucking sucked.
Seems to just not care about any of our outrage or take any of it seriously.
2 hours is enough, but...
And that all brings me back to a bigger problem, which is
me.
permanence. Both these critics and developers are treating performance issues like they're temporary, as if the patches are going to come down the road and then everybody's just going to cycle back. But for players, performance issues sometimes are permanent. We do not live in a world where you can just press pause on life and just replay a game 6 months later when it's...
And with how old some engines are, it might take you forever to fix something, too. You never know. With how convoluted into how hard it is to pinpoint performance issues because of how many different systems there are, sometimes it breaks and it still fucking doesn't work.
Finally fixed. Most of us do not have the time to revisit a game that let us down on launch day. Between work, family, and a constant flood of new releases, we just move on. That first impression sticks, and for many players, it's the last impression that game is ever going to get. You can fix it a year later, you can optimize it into the ground, but for the people that refunded, for the ones that uninstalled, for the ones that left negative reviews, in a lot of cases, they're gone. And this isn't just about critics, it's the industry at large that's not valuing performance the same way that players do. Developers have convinced themselves that they can just keep working on a game after it launches, that they'll be able to get it all to come together later, but later doesn't really matter for an audience that's already checked out. That disconnect is exactly why we're seeing this cycle repeat itself over and over again. All these publishers prioritizing release dates and promising patches while players are left with a broken product that they may never touch again.
God, if I could find the meme. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Ah, wow meme. They'll fix it by patch PvP or alpha. It's the cycle where it's like, oh, we'll fix it by alpha, and then it's like, oh, we'll fix it by beta, and then it's like, oh, we'll fix it by launch day, and then it's like, oh, we'll fix it by next patch. Oh, we'll fix it by the, you know, mid patch or something, right? Like, it's very, very common in MMORPGs, specifically World of Warcraft, in the last like 10 years, where they'll say they're gonna fix something, and it's like, we'll fix it by like a certain amount of time, and then that time comes, and they're like, oh, we'll fix it another time. It's not that important. And then you lose the people that will just like quit the game and say fuck it. They don't want to deal with it anymore. Yeah, we'll fix it by next expansion.
And No Man's Sky did a massive service to the players, but did irreparable damage to the games industry. And I'll elaborate on this. These guys made good on their promises. They fixed their games. They over-delivered in some cases and continue to over-deliver in the case of No Man's Sky. But the positive reaction that was around those games and the continued positive reaction around those games taught the industry all the wrong lessons. These guys saw and they say, well, you know what? We can release a game in a garbage state. We can take their money as long as we promise to fix it later.
Yeah.
Essentially, ever since then, I've only seen more and more games release in worse and worse states year after year. And these AAA games are getting so bad. And they used to already release in incomplete states to begin with day one patches and things like that. But now they've seen resurrections. They've seen praise. And they think that they...
Monster Hunter was like this too. I personally didn't experience massive issues, but a lot of people did, and it really put them off within the first 2 weeks of the game launching. Because Crapcom has a really poor engine.
Get away with it at any time.
It's still not fixed. It is the reason why Maxor hasn't fucking released his fucking Monster Hunter video, man. It took him so long to release the first one that the next one didn't even fucking get released. He's still breaking. Stalker 2 as well. Yeah, Stalker 2 has massive issues as well.
And I'm not saying that that's the goal that a lot of these guys are aiming for, but if they get down to the line of release date, they think that they will have a golden parachute. I guarantee there's probably some strategy meetings where they're like, so the game's going to be really rough because of this, but don't worry, we've seen with other games that this can work out. That's why it's gotten to the point where you're seeing some of these developers getting confused and even angry that we're not showing them the same grace as we would some of these other companies. I think that's why they're getting so upset. They think that the outrage is just too much. They think that it's overbearing and it's odd. And these game journalists and these developers, they think it's weird because they look at all of this as just temporary problems. But what is so temporary about something that seems to happen with every single AAA game? That sounds pretty permanent to me, right? I mean, the two biggest AAA releases of this year, Monster Hunter Wilds and Borderlands 4, both games, terrible performance. That seems permanent.
Yep.
Ultimately, I think that this issue is just going to sort itself out financially. I think that these games are going to come out. I think that they're going to farm the first week that they're out. They're going to make a ton of money in that first week or first month. And then after that, the follow-up sales are just going to die. They're going to die hard. And we already know that's the case because Monster Hunter Wild sold 10 million copies in its first month, but hasn't been able to sell 500,000 since then. That's crazy. The reason why that's happening is because
I would say that could be chalked up to everyone who played the game basically got done with the game really quickly, because I finished the game pretty fast. Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't like Monster Hunter Worlds where I had to like really play the game for more than a month. No sane gamer would buy it. Yeah.
Think about it. The people that are waiting to buy the game are likely the people that don't have the money to play the game, and they're also likely the people
I played like
who don't have the hardware to be able to play the game. So the games are getting killed by word of mouth, but also the people that can't actually afford to be even able to run some of these games. Got to meet the players where they are. That's why I said before, targeting the modern audience shouldn't be about skin color or gender. It should be about income and hardware.
True.
Hopefully they'll learn.
True.
If they don't,
and reeling.
I'll make a video for them. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did enjoy the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below. Tell me how if you guys have been enjoying the game at all or playing it at all, what's your experience been with its performance? What else are you guys looking forward to this year? And that's all I got. Stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Peace. Family, 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 family. Go check him out. Yippee! I like this guy. He's a good yapper. Good yapper. Good video.
Oh, yeah.